Hey crew, it's Ben, and I'm back with another Bible study. Today we're going somewhere I was not expecting to go. I thought again that I was going to be in Job. The reason I keep going to Job is because of the faithfulness, and I wanted to show faithfulness through adversity. And then God put it on me to look at the story of Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. So I did. I went to Daniel and I started reading through Daniel again, and that led me into Daniel and the lion's den, and both of those are very good examples of faithfulness. So I was like, all right, if this is where you want me, then that's what I'm going to do. And so I started reading through the rest of Daniel. I've read through Daniel a lot. I've spent a good bit of time here. I've spent a good bit of time in Ezekiel and Jeremiah, the prophets of the Old Testament. I haven't spent a lot of time in the Chronicles or the Kings, and that's something I'm working on and something I'm adjusting in myself. But I've spent a lot of time in the prophecies. End-time prophecy is one of my things. I enjoy it. I enjoy prophecies. I enjoy conspiracy theories. It's part of my stack. I'm lead and I love those things. But that's not where we wound up. We wound up dealing in prophecy and not in faithfulness. I really did think that it was going to be a lesson on faithfulness today, because we have hard times coming. They are definitely coming, and you will need to be faithful. You will need to be steadfast. And I was planning on showing examples of that. Job, Daniel, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego are all examples of steadfastness and faithfulness. And so I was gonna go there. But God pulled me down. And he didn't pull me down, like when I say pull me down, it's down in the book. It's farther down in the book. It's not pulling me down. And I wound up somewhere I was not expecting, because a lot of people do not touch this one. There's a lot of talk about the visions prior to this, and there's a lot of talk about the events and the visions after this. But this particular vision was put upon me. Now, we may touch on some of the other ones. We absolutely will touch on some of the other ones at some point. I don't know that it'll be today. But we're going to talk today about Daniel 8. And Daniel 8 is a special case. A lot of people don't touch it because it's not as easy to interpret. I don't try to claim any specialness about myself. I'm not a prophet. I am not any of those things. Like, that is not me. I'm just a man that God is allowing to speak. And God is forcing to speak in some cases. But this is pretty important. I'm still in my coffee. It is still early on a Sunday morning, and this is coming out to y'all today. So we will have some jump cuts in here, and I'm gonna be drinking my coffee, just so you know. And we're gonna start in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar. A vision appeared to me, Daniel, subsequent to the one that had appeared to me earlier. We're gonna go back eventually and deal with that. I don't think we're gonna have time to do that today. And in the vision, I saw myself in the citadel of Susa, in the province of Elam, and I saw the vision that I was beside the Ulai Canal. Now, we're going to pull this up. This pen right here is the Susa Palace. This is where this is taking place. This is where he's having his vision, is right here. Elam is this area right here, it's off to the right. I'm bad with left and right, y'all. It's so funny. I'll call them wrong all the time. But to the east is Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, Pakistan. And to the west is Syria, Iraq, Azerbaijan, and Israel. This is Israel over here. Almost directly to the west is Jerusalem. It's just like a hair south. This is the area that we're dealing with in this prophecy. We're going to come back to this a couple times, and I wanted to give you the reference of the geography because it is important. Pull that over. where we can just barely see Egypt because that is part of it too. All right. So let's get into the prophecy itself. Man, I love coffee. That's what I'm going to miss at the end. And then I lifted up my eyes and saw a ram with 2 horns standing beside the canal. The horns were long, but one was longer than the other, and the longer one grew up later. I saw the ram charging towards the west and the north and the south, and no animal could stand against him. And there was no deliverance from his power. He did as he pleased and became great. We're going to go all the way through it, and then we'll come back and talk about more stuff. As I was contemplating all of this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between his eyes came out of the west. Crossing the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground, he came toward the 2-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and rushed at him with a furious power. I saw him approach the ram in a rage against him, and he struck the ram and shattered his 2 horns. The ram was powerless to stand against him, and the goat threw him to the ground and trampled him. Trampled him is important. And no one could deliver the ram from his power. Thus the goat became very great. But at the height of his power, his large horn was broken off. That's the bigger one that started later. And 4 prominent horns came up in his place, pointing towards the 4 winds of heaven. 4 winds of heaven are the 4 directions. From one of these horns, a little horn emerged and grew extensively towards the south and the east, and towards the beautiful land. Beautiful land is Israel. It grew as high as the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the earth and trampled them. It magnified itself, even to the prince of the host. It removed his daily sacrifice and overthrew the place of his sanctuary. And in the rebellion, the host and the daily sacrifice were given over to the horn and flung to the ground, and prospered in whatever it did. I'm trying to make sure this lines up so y'all can read it as we go along. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to him, how long until the fulfillment of the vision of the daily sacrifice, the rebellion that causes desolation, and the surrender of the sanctuary and the host to be trampled? And he said to me, it will take 2,300 evenings and mornings, and then the sanctuary will be properly restored. While I, Daniel, was watching the vision and trying to understand it, there stood one before me, having the appearance of a man. And I heard the voice of a man calling from between the banks of the Ulai. That is the river that he was standing, or the canal he was standing next to. Gabriel explained the vision to this man. As he came near to where I stood, I was terrified and fell face down. Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision concerns the time of the end. Then he touched me, helped me to my feet, and said, behold, I will make known to you what will happen in the latter time of wrath, because it concerns the appointed time of the end. The 2-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy goat represents the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes is the first king. The 4 horns that replace the broken one represent 4 kingdoms that will arise from that nation, but will not have the same power. In the latter part of the reign, when the rebellion has reached its full measure, an insolent king, skilled in intrigue, will come to the throne. His power will be great, but it will not be his own. He will cause terrible destruction and succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy the mighty men along with the holy people. Through his craft and by his hand, he will cause deceit to prosper. And in his own mind, he will make himself great. In a time of peace, he will destroy many, and he will stand against the prince of princes. Yet he will be broken off, but not by human hands. The vision of the evenings and mornings that has been spoken is true. Now you must seal up the vision, for it concerns a distant future. And I, Daniel, was exhausted and lay ill for days. Then I got up and went about the king's business. I was confounded by the vision. It was beyond understanding. All right. We've talked about where we're at. I went too far. All right. We've talked about where we're talking about in in the land right here. I need to look at where Media is real quick, but Persia is Iran. That is part of. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pause this. We'll jump right back, and I'm going to come back to Media so that I'm not misinforming. All right, so I checked it. This is what we're talking about here. All right, so this right here is Persia, the southern part. Elam right here, Persia is this, but Media is the northwestern part, including areas of Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and Pakistan. This area right up in here, Kandahar, Herat, almost to Kabul, not quite, right at the edge of Kabul. It was the outskirts. Like, this is a mountain range right here. Let's see if we can show that. Like, you see all the mountains? This is a very mountainous area. And the control was more in this part here. That's important because it explains itself. The Media Persia is Afghanistan and the surrounding areas. The four great beasts or four kings who will arise from the earth, but the saints of the Most High will receive the kingdom and possess it. That was 7. We're here. Okay. I saw a ram with 2 horns standing beside the canal. He says that this is Media Persia, right? Like that's right here. The 2-horned ram that you saw represents the kings of Media and Persia. That is very pertinent to today. The shaggy goat that flies across the entirety of the globe represents the kings of Greece. Now, what has been told to me is that it is not quite just Greece. At the time, Greece was the kingdom of others, right? There was definitely more up there, but for the most part, Greece represented to this area the white folks over here. Now, I don't place a lot of stock in skin color, y'all know that. But it was important, it is important to history and context of these things. Because the kingdoms were separated for the most part along those lines. This shaggy goat, I'm led to believe, represents us. We are going to cross the entire globe without touching anything, right? And we're going to blast away. I saw the ram charging. That was us. Wait, the ram, not us. We're the goat. But this ram charges towards the west and the north and the south. That is here. The west is coming out this way. And then the north and the south is here. Like, this is a goat coming in. Okay? Afghanistan has just fallen. Turkmenistan is allied with them. Pakistan is allied with them. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all of these stands are with Afghanistan. They are with Al-Qaeda. They are. This is a unified front. This is a beast rising right here. This is the goat, or the ram. It is about to charge this way. Now, the second horn is Al-Qaeda. I have a feeling that what happened over here a few years ago was the smaller horn, but I have not received direction on that. So I'm not going to firmly state that. But this is the ram. I may not understand all the horn symbology, but the new horn is this. This is the longer horn. This is the greater horn. And they are about to come out this way. Okay. I saw the ram charging towards the west, the north, and the south, and no animal could stand against him. Now, the animal here is not talking about physical animals. It is talking about peoples. They will run roughshod and trample. They are doing that right now in Afghanistan. The Christian church in Afghanistan is dying. They are being hunted and killed right now. They're not killing the women. Oh, no animal could stand against him, and there was no deliverance from his power, and he did as he pleased and became great. That means that he's going to become great. He's going to continue towards the west. He's going to solidify the north and the south. Iran is different. Now, Iran holds slightly different views than most of the rest of the Middle East. The only real difference between Shia and Sunni is when they believe you should kill the infidels and who the Mahdi is going to be. The Sunni, I think, I might get it backwards, so if I get it backwards, I have to look it up all the time. It's one of them details I just cannot remember for the life of me, no matter how many times I go over it. But I'm going to say the Shia, I'm pretty sure the Shia are the ones that are in charge of Iran. And the Shia believe that it has to be the son of Muhammad. And that until the son of Muhammad comes, we are not to kill the infidels. Whereas the Sunni did not believe that it has to be the son of Muhammad. It has to simply be, the name simply has to be Muhammad bin Muhammad. And you kill the infidels now. That is the main difference between the two. I may have them backwards, but that's the difference between the two. They still believe that all the infidels need to die. They still believe that the Mahdi is coming. They believe that a man called Jesus is going to come and lead them into the Mahdi. Like that's what's going to happen. I don't believe that. All right. And as I was contemplating all of this, suddenly a goat with a prominent horn between his eyes came out of the west, crossing the surface of the entire earth without touching the ground. Now, this is why I believe that it is going to be us, is because it crosses the entire earth without touching the ground. And it's coming from the west. If it was Greece, it would have came more from the north. That's semantics. I'm not arguing that. I feel that it's going to be us. It may not. And that we're going to attack this force that is amassing. And there will be repercussions from that. He came towards the two-horned ram I had seen standing beside the canal and rushed at him with furious power. I think that is airstrikes. That's what it feels like to me. I saw him approach the ram in a rage against him, and he struck the ram and shattered his two horns. The ram was powerless to stand against him, and the goat threw him to the ground and trampled him. No one could deliver the ram from his power. That is victory over the current situation. And thus the goat became very great. But at the height of his power, his large horn was broken off, and 4 prominent horns came up in his place, pointing towards the 4 winds of heaven. That is 4 different directions if we are the goat. If you look at our current situation, let me make sure y'all can. If you look at our current situation in this country, we are in dire straits. We are on the verge of a complete breakdown. There are several lines of people that are talking about peaceful divorce. This seems to imply that such a thing might happen. This is going to be a little bit controversial because most people don't see us here in this, and that's okay. I really feel like this is it. Like I wouldn't be putting it out there if I didn't feel like it was it, but I don't want to stand firm on this because it is not firmly clear through the verses, but I feel like it will be. And at the height of its power, the large horns broken off, and 4 prominent horns come up, pointing towards the 4 winds of heaven. Seems to be when the divorce happens that there are 4 separations. It would make a lot of sense. You have the West Coast, you have the Northeast, you have the Gulf South, and you have the Midwest, or the Middle America. Those are pretty good divisions. From the Mississippi East or the Appalachians East, it's a completely different culture than most of America. Along the Great Lakes area, that's part of that culture. And that's from the Mississippi River to the east. from the Mississippi River to the west and the north is the breadbasket of America. That is the Great Plains and all of those things. That is a different culture than anywhere else. Here in the South, like I live in Louisiana, but all the way up to Tennessee, Arkansas, like there is a culture here that is completely different than those two cultures. And the one to the west, from the Rocky Mountains west, and even from the desert, including the Rocky Mountains and west, is a different culture. And if we were to separate into four entities, it makes sense that those would be the four entities: north, east, west, and south. That is what God has put upon me for this. And from one of those horns, a little horn emerged and grew extensively towards the south and the east. Now, here's where the confusion comes in, because this has to be the Middle East. Right? In order for the Antichrist to rise, like for one, he has to be a Muslim. The Muslim people are not going to accept anyone but a Muslim. The Antichrist is going to lead into destruction. And he's going to gather the Muslims to do that, to lead the destruction forth into Israel. Israel is the target. It's not America. We are not the target. Israel is. Jerusalem specifically, the holy city, is still the target of all prophecy. It is not us. Get that out of your mind. What may happen is, because of what happened here, the horn was broken off here, and four horns came up, and then the horns were broken on the goat and the ram. So maybe it's the ram horn. That could be. It's not specific here. When it says from one of these horns, a little horn emerged, why does it keep going to the top? I don't understand that. From one of these horns, a little horn emerged and grew extensively towards the south and the east. Now, if we break off the horn here, the south and the east would be this way. And that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the little horn, if I'm correct about the ram, is here. This is the area, we talked about this before, but this is the area where Daesh took place during the presidency of the 44th president. Again, they were given the weapons, they were given the supplies, there was not any resistance. The same thing that just happened in Afghanistan. Twice, right? And the newer one was longer. It's taken over a bigger spot, and it just got more power. There is less pushback. We at least fought here. But if this horn that broke off is the one that grows the little horn, or grows the new horn, which is the Antichrist, and makes absolute sense. Most of the end times prophecy dealing specifically with the Islamic faith is that the Mahdi will come from this area here. The tomb of the prophet is right along this border here. It is part of the reason for the conflict between Turkey and Syria. So it is a holy place for them. It is also where they foresee the Mahdi coming from, is this area. That is not this is absolutely, but it is a supposition that they hold that this is where it will come from. And if the smaller horn is broken, this is one horn, and this is one horn, and from one of the horns, the Mahdi will rise, the Antichrist, it makes sense to me that it will be around here, but probably between Aleppo and Mosul. Turkey is an end-time player. Turkey is going to hold the caliphate. They are the king of the north. The king of the north is here. The king of the south is here. This is the king of the north in Turkey. This is the king of the south in Saudi Arabia. This right here is the holiest place in Islam. The king of the south holds Medina and Mecca, both of which are the holiest places in Islam. Jerusalem was never a holy site for the Mohammedans. they take it because Moses, like the rock at the Dome of the Rock, is where they supposedly, that's why they hold it, is because that's where he went to make the offering of his son, was the Dome of the Rock. We're not going to get into those arguments, but that is why they hold that. This is their holy place, though. Their prophecy is that someone will come from the north and take over Mecca. Like he will come and he will take over Mecca. That is part of their prophecies. We may get into that at some point. I have studied these things. We're spending a lot of time on the map, but it is a reason. I want to make sure that it's clear the areas that we're talking about. And it grew extensively towards the south and the east, towards the beautiful land. Now, south and east towards the beautiful land would have to be here. If this is the Antichrist, south and east is this area here. Right? Makes sense. Jerusalem is right here. Israel used to encompass this whole area right here. This land of Jordan used to be part of Israel. From one of these in south and east and towards the beautiful land. The beautiful land is Israel. As it grew high as the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and some of the stars to the earth. This is not talking about physical stars. Not tossing physical stars onto the planet. There is no firmament, and we do not have a flat earth. If you think that, I'm sorry, you're wrong. When he was talking about the firmament and that he set the stars in motion, he is talking about the vastness of space. Like, it is huge out there. You cannot comprehend how huge it is. You cannot comprehend the number of stars that are out there. But when he's going to exalt himself to the place of God, and he is going to trample down those who serve God, whether that be Jewish or Christian or whoever serves anyone other than their God is going to be cast down and trampled upon. And it magnified itself, even to the prince of the host. It removed his daily sacrifice and overthrew the place of his sanctuary. That is taking Jerusalem. That is the actual temple, which will be rebuilt. I think that is imminent. It will not take them long. They have plans in place right now to do that. I think part of what happens when we stop the advance from the east is that part of that agreement is that there will be a splitting from the Dome of the Rock and the temple. I don't think that the temple was on Temple Mount. There are several reasons to not believe that. There's no running water is the main one. There had to be, for the ritual cleansings, there had to be running water. There had to. There is not on Temple Mount. There is another site for the temple. It has been well researched. Markers are there. Everything seems to be in order for that being the actual temple. So when time comes to build the temple, that's where it's going to be. There will be a physical temple. The Jews will start the sacrifice again. It is not necessary, but it is needed to fulfill prophecy. And then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to him, how long until the fulfillment of the vision of the daily sacrifice when the temple is rebuilt, the rebellion that causes desolation, which we will get to in a minute, and the surrender of the sanctuary and the host to be trampled? This is laying out from the time that the temple is rebuilt until the very end, how long? And he says 2,300 evenings and mornings. That is the longest number given in prophecy. It is over 3.5 years. It is over halfway. I think that we are about 3 years away from the temple. I want to say that we will see the abomination of desolation before that, but probably not. There's going to be strife and war and all of the seals for the first 3.5 years. And then stuff gets bad. Like it's going to be bad. Don't get me wrong. The seals are horrible. The seals is a unifying force. It is war. It is plague. And then it is the martyrdom of the saints. That's the first four seals. Those are all by man. The unification comes first. War and pestilence, and then famine, and all. And then the martyr of the saints. So that's where we're at with that. Well, then Gabriel interprets it. He says that to understand that this concerns the time of the end. This is not for you now. This is for a little later. And while he was speaking, I fell into a deep sleep with my face on the ground. That is so that he could understand, that he could comprehend. The mind of man is not built to understand the workings of God. So in order to deal with that, you have to not be in your physical self as much. It is a requirement. The two-horned ram you saw that represents the kings of Media and Persia. We covered that. The shaggy goat represents the king of Greece. There's an argument to be made that we are the continuation of the Roman Empire here in the United States. It's a very good argument. I tend to subscribe somewhat to that. It is more than just us. It might even be like the United Nations type situation. I'm not firm on this. The four horns that replace the broken one represents four kingdoms that rise from that nation. That is what leads me here, is because we will rise. It makes sense when we covered that. But it will not have the same power. If we split into four, we will not carry the same weight worldwide. Not necessarily a bad thing. And in the latter part of their reign, when the rebellion has reached its full measure, this is the abomination. The rebellion and the abomination are just different ways of saying the same thing. The transgression that it causes abomination is another way of saying it. When it has reached its full measure, an insolent king, skilled in intrigue, will come to the throne. Skilled in deceit is another way of saying it. And one full of himself is another way of saying the king. Now, they didn't have presidents back then. Their leaders were all kings. So when they say king, he means leader. An insolent king is someone who has no regard for the will of others. Skilled in intrigue is a damn liar. His power will be great, but will not be his own. We have a puppet in office, and he will cause terrible destruction and succeed in it, in whatever he does. Like, he isn't intentionally destroying us. He will destroy the mighty men along with the holy people. So he's going to take out all of the fighters and the holy people. And through his craft and by his hand, he will cause deceit to prosper. We are in the middle of a great deceit. This entire situation for the last year and a half is built fundamentally on a lie. There has never been a test for this. It's a lie. And in his own mind, he will make himself great. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of mind, but in a time of peace, he will destroy many, and he will stand against the prince of princes, yet he will be broken off, but not by human hands. So, where we're at right now, we have been in a time of relative peace. The last 3.5 years of the other president who stood in the gap, we have talked about that, has been a time of relative peace. He broke out peace in North Korea. He broke out peace across most of the Middle East. He was a peacemonger. He broke out peace everywhere. That concerns me a little bit for another reason, but we'll see how that goes. We're not quite done with the prophecies of Donald Trump, I don't think. And but he will be broken off not by human hands. His mind is completely failing. This is a very brief explanation of what's going on. I'm going to go get some more coffee, and we'll be back in just a minute. And we're going to go through some examples of the abomination of desolation, which is this rebellion right here. And we're going to show that in a minute. So I will be right back. All right, so we're going to start to wrap this up. In the latter part of the reign, when the rebellion has reached its full measure, we're talking about the abomination that causeth desolation, the transgression, the sin, or the idol, that causes people to wail, that causes people to grieve worldwide. This is not just a person that is grieving. It is everyone who is grieving. They all see it and tremble in fear. Now, there is a line of thought that is, this is a man. And we're going to go through some things real quick before I get into where I'm at. This is what is said. I don't know that you're going to be able to really see. And from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up. So from the time that the temple stops and the abomination is set up, there will be 1,200 days. And then blessed is he who waits to the end of the 1,335 days. That's 1 month past the 1,295 days, just over a month. And then we're going to look at these real quick. Some of these I had pulled up separately, so we're not going to have to look at those separately. When you see standing in the holy place the abomination of desolation described by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand. That's Matthew 24:15. Mark 13:14. So when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it should not be, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Judea is south of Jerusalem all the way to Saudi. That was the land of Jordan was part of Judea. The Gaza Strip, just east of the Sinai, like all of that is the land of Judea. The other tribes were farther north, but Judea was down. Well, we can look at it real quick. Judea is this area right here. This is Judea. When it says, when you see the abomination, the people in this area need to flee. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Let's go back. Which tab was it? It was not that one. Give me a second. All right. So when you have completed these days, okay, that one is, we'll get into Ezekiel at another time. This is when he is lying in prophecy for Jerusalem, and it is relevant, but we're not covering that today. Daniel 8, it magnified itself even to the prince of the host in the day. Removed the daily sacrifice and overthrew the place of his sanctuary. The place of God's sanctuary. He said to me, it will take 2,300 evenings. We covered that. Daniel 9, we did not get to. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. This is the Antichrist. In the middle of the week, he will put an end to the sacrifice and offerings. The week in this case is generally agreed to be 7 days, and right in the middle is when he puts the end to the offerings. That's why I feel like we are imminent with the rebuilding of the temple. I think that the seals are the system that is rolling out right now, and the situation in the Far East or the Middle East. It's Far East to me, but it's almost to the Far East. It's right on the edge of the Far East, as it was known. Like the India and beyond was the Far East. The Middle East was up to Iran or so, and then the Near East was the Gulf area, the Mediterranean Sea area. And on the wings of the temple, right after the temple is built, is when the abomination that causes desolation will be seen. And until the decreed destruction is poured out upon him. His forces will rise up and desecrate the temple fortress. They will abolish the daily sacrifice and set up the abomination of desolation. That could very well be people taking over the temple and setting up an idol in the temple. Do not dismiss that. But that is not where I feel led to talk about. Let me pull up this real quick. Now, this is a sign worldwide of a certain peoples. I'm gonna get off of that so YouTube doesn't find it real quick. And we'll swap back over here and just talk about that image for a second. Now, I'm gonna have to. This is generally seen as a crescent moon and star. The reason that this is Their sign is because they worship a rock. You can believe it. It is in Mecca. It is a black cube inside of a larger rock that they march around. They go in a circle counterclockwise all the way around this thing. And if they can get to this rock and kiss it, they're blessed for the rest of their life. They worship this rock. And inscribed upon this rock is this image. This is the reason why that is their image. There's not because of farther back. It is because of this rock. What I see in this is not a crescent moon. This is an eclipse. This is the sun. This is the moon. And right at the very edge, when the moon eclipses the sun, we will be able to see a star. This is a wandering star. This is a moving star. And this rock that they worship is the last remainder and reminder that this star is coming. I believe that this star is the sign of the Son of Man. This is he who will come on clouds with great glory. He will make the heavens tremble. He will turn, all of the things that the sign of the Son of Man signifies and that the return of the Son of Man signifies can be tied to this star entering our solar system. And it is obviously not a star. The stars to them were all the heavenly bodies. They were stars, they were planets, but they were angels and they were demons. And this was the personification of God to them. The holy place is the expanse of the heavens. It is the firmament. It is that is where God resides to them. That is the God's area, right? And when you see this standing where it should not be, the whole world will tremble and wail in grief. It will cause great earthquakes and floods and famines and fires, and all of the things that are prophesied will be brought by this entering our solar system. It will be a very rough 7 years. It's going to take a while for it to make its orbit and exit. But when it does, the earth will have been transformed. We will not be on the same earth that we were. It will turn 90 degrees and there will be great calamity everywhere. I have on my page, one of my subscriptions my favorite channels is Suspicious Observers and the Electric Universe. There's two of them. Check them out. They talk about this. I got to get Gil Broussard on here. I just remembered that. Gil Broussard has tracked this. The Great Destruction only happens every 6,000 years, but the planet comes a little bit more often than that. The Great Darkness, when the sun stood still and the armies, that was this. There's a lot that can be tied to this. There's a reason why they are looking for this. When it comes like this, this is the time that they are to take up arms and come kill us. That's what they say. That is what the majority of them believe. The other ones believe you can kill them at any time. But for one group, it is when this happens and the Mahdi rises, then we can go forth and conquer in the name of our rock. The abomination that causeth desolation. It is going to cause people desolation. Now, desolation can mean many things. It is taken one way by most biblical scholars, but desolation is a waste. The actual word, desolate, it is the removing of all sustenance, all life, everything that makes the land livable is when desolation comes. Desolate, desolation, horror, utterly desolate, waste, and desolation. There's only one time when they try to make it fit not this, and that is in the prophecy of the abomination of desolation. I think that the abomination that stands in the holy place is going to be this planet. I believe that it is going to cause desolation across the entirety of the globe. I believe that the whore Babylon, us, will be stricken. And beast system that we have here will be destroyed. And that is, we talked about that already. We will talk about it again. But desolation is not what they're trying to say. It's just not. When they know that I am the Lord, and when I made the land a desolate waste because of the abominations they have committed. This is word of Jerusalem's fall in Ezekiel. This is letting you know that it is a complete falling. It is not an idol, I feel. I could be wrong. It could be them setting up an idol in the temple. But the Mohammedans don't worship idols either. To a fault. They don't do pictures and images, which we're not really supposed to, graven images and all of that. It is easy to become engrossed in our idols. Anything can be an idol to you. It does not have to be a divine thing. If sex is your main concern, then sex is your idol. If money is your main concern, then money is your idol. If your TV show is your main concern, that is your idol. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters that you put all of your attention into it. That makes it idolatrous. That is the abomination. That is what causes it. Now, that's what he's talking about right here, the abominations they have committed. The abomination, it has several different meanings, and desolation has but one. Like it is the removing of all hope. It is the removing of all life sustenance. Desolation. When you salt the fields, that is desolation. Now, in Mark and Matthew, it talks about when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it should not be. Let the reader understand. That means that it is hidden, that you have to discern. God, we were told that if you seek, then you shall find. If you knock, it shall be answered. If you ask, it shall be given. You were told that you have to ask for discernment, just like you would ask for a blessing in a particular area. Discernment is a gift of God. He tells you what things mean through prayer and meditation. But it tells you that when you see this, to run. That specifically, that if you were in the area south of Jerusalem, to run. That is because of what is coming. That is because of the Islamic prophecies. Those have to be fulfilled too. Their Mahdi is our Antichrist. Same person. Interchangeable. Down to descriptions and everything. Like everything's interchangeable with it. I think that the abomination is going to be the sign that we see in the sky. That is my feeling. I could be wrong. But if you do see that sign in the sky, it is time to run. That is the sign that I am waiting on. Now, if I see an idol go up in the rebuilt temple, it's time to run. If I see the temple being rebuilt, I'm going to be making my preparations to run. That won't be the abomination, but it will be setting it up, and it's time to make sure that you are in the wilderness. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up now. This has gone long, and most people aren't going to stick around to the end. But I had to talk about this. I had no choice. Again, in the things I talk about, God puts on me. I get pulled where I need to go, and He tells me what to say. Sometimes it is an audible voice in my head. Sometimes it is not. It is just a leading of the Spirit. There was no voice telling me this. This is how the discernment came upon me, and therefore I am sharing it with you. I am perfectly willing to be wrong in it. I'm not getting dogmatic about it. I will not judge your dogma behind it. But this is what I subscribe to until I am proven otherwise. It feels right. And that is important to me as an NI dominant. Take heed and heart in this. There is hope. The hope is God Himself. He does say that there will be a remnant saved. Those who flee to the wilderness and endure to the end will be rewarded with a new kingdom. There are a lot of people who are expecting a kingdom with Jesus on the throne and everybody bowing to Him on this planet. That will not happen. What may happen is that we live as we did way back when, before there was technology, back when we were tribes. It will be as it was in the days of, before the days of Moses, before we got the codified law. People will live with God in their heart for 1,000 years. And then evil will return and civilization will return. And all of these horrible things that we do will return because we will finally be populated enough to start interacting in a way that is detrimental to humanity, which we always do. And then will come the end, the final. That is the end of the millennial reign. I think that we will get to be part of it. Like if we endure and make the race to the end, then we will be part of the rebuilding. That is my interpretation of this scripture. We will get to all of this. I think that God's putting it in the order that he's putting it because it is important to understand the groundwork. It is important to understand the events actually happening right now. It is concerning, but it is not dismaying. This is prophecy playing out. It is what we were promised, and we were promised the end, and the end is greater. His will is our will. His will is my will for sure. His will is the will of this household for sure. We are in agreement here. So make sure that his will is your will. If you don't know him, find him. And this is how you say, Dear Heavenly Father, I come to you a sinner and I ask forgiveness for my sins. I freely accept your grace and I ask you to come live in my soul and to change the man that I am. Turn me into the one that you want me to be and make your ways right in my sight. In your heavenly name I pray. And that is all that is taken. All that is ever taken is a turning of your soul to him. If you become his, you are protected. Not from physical things. You may be tortured. You may be worse than tortured. You're a woman, it's going to be really rough out here very shortly. But know that your hope is in God and not in the things of this world. That is the important part. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single. This has been Pit Steak. Peace.